one.
I'm not sure I lost it.
Good afternoon or good evening. Welcome to Monday, August 26th meeting of the Town of Montague Select Board. Topics may start earlier than specified unless the meeting is, unless there is a hearing scheduled. Meeting is being taped and votes may be taken. Meeting is being recorded by MCTV and we have a tape record. Is there anyone taping the meeting? Okay, so Michael indicates that he is from the Montague Reporter. No problem, just get it on record. And I'm Rich Kuglowitz.
Chris Boutwell.
And we're the Select Board.
I'm Steve Ellis, Town Administrator.
Okay. First, we'll start with public comments. All right. Personnel Board. I think this is Bob McDonald. So we've got an appointment for a laborer at wastewater treatment.
Yep.
Adam
Kleberg. Yeah.
This is
He is to start on September 3rd as a laborer, grade B, step 1.
okay, it's 40 hours per week, UE position.
Yep.
Starting rate is $17.12 per hour. Does he have any experience, or he's starting as a laborer out of?
He's starting, I mean, he worked for Carson Can, so he's had a lot of experience with
That kind of stuff.
septic, yes. And he is a licensed, journeyman's licensed plumber, so which
Okay.
is a nice attribute for the, since we have a lot of plumbing, so.
Good.
And this position will be sort of filling the retiring Tina Tyler's
Yep.
position as Bob shares with you. He's shifting some of the responsibilities of another laborer into
Lab.
the lab.
Right. Yeah.
Good, okay.
Uh-huh.
Chris?
Okay, I'll make a motion that the board authorize the hiring of Adam Keeblerg. Hopefully I said it right, for the sewer department, labor, effective date of hire, September 3rd, 2019. It's permanent position, union is UE. Wage will be grade B, step 1, starting pay at $17.12 an hour.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So both unanimous. Okay.
And there's
The only other-
two spots to sign that.
Okay.
The only other personal issue is I'm officially giving my resignation. I told Steve Ellis last week my final day at Montague will be September 13th. I wish to thank everyone, the town, and everybody for your support and continued success, hopefully, here in the town of Montague. But I really enjoyed my time here with you folks, so
Well, your commute will be a lot shorter.
it will be a lot shorter.
Well, I want to publicly thank you, Bob. You came on board when we had some big challenges and some difficulties, and you stepped up and dealt with those. And I think you've helped to raise the department to a higher level than we were at, and to try to help with all around the process and recently dealt with EPA and so forth. You've done an excellent job with all those, and you're going to be missed. So I want to tell you, we really do appreciate all the efforts. I know that it's a very difficult job. You're at the end of the pipe, and sometimes it all ends up there. But you did a great job for us.
Speaking of EPA, I did speak to them today too, and I mentioned to them that I would be leaving this project, and but I also assured them that I was going to follow through on some things until a new person's appointed. I said I'm not going to let things. We're going to continue to progress forward, and I said I'm going to work it out with Steve and figure out how I can just keep some things moving that the EPA wants us to get done in their list of.
Well, we'd appreciate that. And
Yeah,
Steve, if you
so-
want to work out some sort of an arrangement or whatever to help with those things, let us know.
Yeah, I think we'll have a number of different things to consider as we look at a transition.
Right.
Obviously, it's advantageous to us that we have a veteran staff. We have multiple people with high-grade licenses, 6s and 7s, I believe. Two 6s?
7 and 3 5s.
7 and 3 5s, thanks. So we have a lot of qualified people, but we also are going to want to make certain that we have an expedient solution to ensure that the superintendent level oversight is well attended to. Bob and I have had a couple of quick conversations about what some options might be in that regard, and once I have a chance, frankly, to work through those possibilities, I'll bring those to the board
Yes.
in early September.
Mhm.
I'll just say that, it has been a pleasure. Bob and I started around the same time. He came in about 3 months before I did, and I feel like he's been a great partner as we've gone through a really intense transitional time.
It was difficult. So I guess, Steve, I would ask that you start researching options for us so that we can get this on the agenda, both short-term and long-term. We may need to do an interim step like we have in the past, bring somebody in on a contract basis to help fill in to kind of get us towards some hiring, or we may want to look at other options.
Yeah.
So I think if Chris is okay with that, I'd like to authorize Steve to go ahead and start
Yeah.
moving forward on that, and then get to us and keep in touch with us as you feel it's appropriate to be on the agenda.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Since we are engaged in these conversations with, EPA, and, I think that we'll probably vet our ideas with them. I'm guessing that they're gonna want a relatively conservative approach that ensures that they, that instills a great deal of confidence in them, so.
They wanna see us progressing in a positive direction, and that's what's most important out of this whole thing. It's like, right now, we're in our last day of that sludge dewatering project that we're
Yes.
doing. So we hit our goal, we're down 10,000 pounds, our secondary has less than 3 feet of blanket in it. So we are where we want, where the numbers are looking excellent, like the size of a treatment plant it should. So all along I keep Steve informed, along with DEP and multiple people at EPA. So they're excited and happy, and it gives us a really better chance of controlling our discharge during wet weather events and everything like that.
Good.
So
Good.
it was a good way of going at it. So
Good. Well, appreciate your leadership on that. I guess I would say, Steve, that as Bob transitions, we met last week and he presented us with a good structural changes.
Yeah.
We briefly talked about with moving some positions around a little
Right.
bit, and aid and so forth. And so I think it might be good for you to just connect with those lead folks at the plant during this transition time to make sure that that we can give them the support that they need, whatever that might be at this time while we transition and talk about leadership and those
Yeah.
sorts of things. Okay. Good.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next is a discussion on the lieutenant's position at the police department. I don't know if Steve gave us just before the meeting a little info. Maybe you could explain to us briefly
Sure. So,
what your
and one of the things,
concerns have been going.
the life of a municipality is long and complicated. And so when one comes in, they start to identify places where there are questions, there are rubs, because there are inconsistencies. And so one of the things that was brought to my attention some time ago, actually, we have a set of contracts that govern sergeants and patrol and detectives at the police department. Likewise, we have a contract that governs the benefits and expectations of the police chief. The lieutenant position was created, I believe it was in May of 2016, and it was created with sort of an odd wrinkle in it, if I could describe it that way, which is that some of the benefits that were described were consistent with those of other officers, and then others simply followed the average administrative or department head, union exempt staff person in the town. Those conform typically to the NAGE contract, where most of our administrative staff are in, but, you know.
Which is kind of a totally different position than sometimes the police deal with.
Well, it is, and I think the question that I wanted the board to weigh is whether it makes sense to build a little bit more consistency relative to the lieutenant's position and the normal benefits and contractual obligations that we have to everybody else that functions as a police officer with that kind of responsibility, be they administrative or otherwise. And what that would mean, honestly, is a slightly more generous set of benefits in terms of, specifically, they're entitled to vacation a little sooner in their contract. They have an allowance for vacation buyback of up to 1 week. And they also, sorry, my mind is slipping on me here as I speak aloud. They also have like distinctions in their holiday pay. The real long-term question for the town is, if we were to lose our lieutenant, who is a very well-qualified individual, and I'm not indicating that he's threatened to leave or anything of that nature in this conversation, that we would be trying to probably first look to promote from within. And if your benefits decline upon your ascension, and you essentially lose the opportunity for the kind of overtime that uniformed officers typically make, that we may have a really difficult time attracting the best qualified person to that position. You might recall several years ago we had an issue about this with the chief position. And of course the chief position is a better compensated one than the lieutenant's, but where giving up overtime and a lot of other opportunities was detrimental to our ability to recruit. So I wanted to bring this to the board's attention. As I see it, if you wanted to make a correction, there would be potentially two ways to go. I could explore with council the legality of entering into a contractual agreement with a lieutenant, as some other towns do. Or we could potentially address this through a town meeting warrant item, as that is how it was originally developed, the language. So
I really think we should talk to our legal counsel, KP. And,
That's what I was
and
thinking.
I honestly think that we need to consider a contract with the lieutenant. I mean, many other towns have contracts with their higher ranking officers. It's not, it's not something that's atypical. And, and it provides protection both directions for both the town, because now things are more clear. So there's been some ambiguity, and so that always can lead to some challenges. So I think, having a discussion with KP, and then I'd like to certainly make sure we get Michael in the loop. But if you're okay, Chris, if we could maybe have that discussion, and then if you'd be okay with Steve and I meeting with the lieutenant at some point when, and maybe forming a draft contract that then the board could review.
And find out what he's.
Yeah, kind of deal like we did with the chief. I think it's really, from what I understand from the discussions with Steve previously on this, it's really the benefits that are the bigger concern. It's not as much around salary as it is that, he's been with the department for a long period of time, and, he's not getting the vacation that everyone else is afforded, for their length of service. And so he's got some legitimate questions that I think we should, sit down and look at. And then we can make a better informed decision, so.
That's fair.
Okay?
Okay. And just so I understand it, it sounds specifically, we're not talking about wages, we're really talking about
Pennies.
a change with the focus being on benefit alignment.
I would look at this as a contract that's better aligned with the units, as similarly to the chiefs, but clearly not some of the same responsibilities. But for instance, we've allowed the chief to work some details if members of the sergeants or patrolmen are not available to do that. And I'm not sure why we wouldn't allow a similar provision for a lieutenant if he so chose. It's a voluntary thing, but, you know, that's an important piece, believe it or not, of where the police, you know, make some extra overtime pay and get some compensation. And so, and it's a needed function in town to have somebody qualified out there for many of the details that they do.
If he's interested.
So if he's interested in, but I think whether he chooses to avail himself of that or not, I think that's a discussion we should have, like, should that be something that's available in a lieutenant's contract? You know, as times change, you know, and promotions or whatever happens, you know, we're gonna be needing to talk to another lieutenant at some point. Quite typically, we would look for somebody from within the ranks if we could.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, then those are gonna be concerns that they might have, as have been brought up by previous discussions with others, so to me, it seems like it's something worth, like, looking at. And again, aligning it to the both bargained contracts and the contract we have with the chief around some of the things. Like I said, there certainly clearly are things that are in the chief's contract that we would not put in a lieutenant's contract, a vehicle or things like that. Okay?
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next we're down to town administrator business.
Oh, if I may,
Oh, sure.
like just sort of thinking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm gonna focus energy first on the superintendent vacancy.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, just
I
as
think
a matter of setting
I
priorities.
think just let the lieutenant know, or, you know, or
Okay.
you could watch the tape, but let him know that we've had a discussion around this, and then certainly we need to work on wastewater and a succession plan,
Mhm.
short-term, long-term, as we talked.
Okay,
Great,
great.
okay.
Town administrator's business, I'm gonna request that we execute an agreement with Ty and Bond of Westfield, Mass. They're the engineers who do our post-closure landfill monitoring of the old town dump. It is a $16,250 contract. It is something of a standard feature because this is long-term required monitoring, and it is a budgeted expense in the DPW's landfill budget.
It's an annual. Okay. Would you like a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that the board authorize the agreement for the engineering services for the old sanitary landfill for environmental monitoring for fiscal year 2020 with Titan Bond of Westfield.
Okay, and the amount of $16,250.
Correct.
Okay, motion's made, I'll second it. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moving on. While we're getting these initials, Steve, any update on the solar landfill? I know there's been a lot or not a lot going on with solar, or a lot going on with solar.
Right. My understanding is that the state is supposed to produce a new set of kind of regulations or guidance relative to the SMART program that will be coming out by the middle of this winter. That's their obligation. They are in fact having a couple of workshops, and I'm going to attend one on, I believe it's September 5th at the University of Massachusetts, where we'll have an opportunity potentially to hear some of their initial thinking about the SMART program. The SMART program is important to the burn dump project because a significant portion of any return on investment will be driven by those renewable energy credits. So my understanding is that Kearsarge is well poised to implement the project, but we're waiting for some financials to be finalized and made certain.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to say that the project would not be viable absent the SMART program. There is a federal renewable energy credit program as well. It may just change the economics somewhat, and we've not yet had those conversations.
Well, hopefully the economics work to at least the plan that was established, capping and so forth, that was
Yeah.
something that's important, so.
Yes, I mean, that is a potential benefit of approximately $2 million in capital expense avoidance for the community, if that project happens. And just to remind people who might not have been following the story, DEP does require that we cap that old burn dump, and the approximate $2 million figure was for a plan that would meet their requirements and specifications. And what we're really talking about here is an exchange of the use of the land for the capping of the land.
Right, that's important, so.
About 3 megawatts, I think, is what we were discussing.
So let's hope that something happens and we can proceed with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, next.
Okay, so you have those and you've signed them?
Yes, they're all set.
Okay,
I think this one's all set.
yes, thank you.
That's right.
So the next item is to execute a contract with Allied Testing of Springfield, Massachusetts for a sum not to exceed $25,000 for testing services associated with construction of the DPW facility. This contract would be in effect essentially from the present time through the end of July 2020. This is the group that is responsible for testing at every step of the way. You know, whether it's the materials, whether it's the compaction of the land that the foundation is being set into, et cetera. They are one of our watchdogs, working in partnership with our owner's project manager and architect. This is a very standard contract for these types of things. There may be some specialized testing at some point that's outside of the capabilities of Allied Testing. And to the extent that we need to bring in some additional testing expertise, that would be done in collaboration with our OPM, who would define its sort of the reality of that as a distinct need.
Yep, so they'll test concrete and compaction and supply
Absolutely.
reports to the OPM, so we have those in our project management portfolio.
Absolutely. And if there's at any point an issue, this is where this is like a critical quality watchdog.
Yes. I've seen firsthand where concrete testing, for instance, is important, and it's important to make sure that you gather that data when it's tested, so it doesn't get lost or misplaced, because some of those issues don't show up for a period of time after construction. You know, if there's a concrete issue, for instance. So having it tested is our first line of defense, and typically they have different levels, and I'm sure they're gonna follow through. We have a great OPM on it, so. Good.
We do.
Okay, so I'll,
Entertain a motion?
yes,
I'll make a motion that the board authorize, execute the agreement with Allied Testing of Springfield, Mass. for the sum not to exceed $25,000 for testing services associated with the DPW facility construction. And the time frame is from August 21st, 2019 through July 31st, 2020.
okay, I'll second that motion. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sign those. So other items, every year, First Light Power Company, which owns the dam that creates the Turner's Falls impoundment right outside our window here, and the canal, which goes to Cabot Station and generates power. They clean that canal and basically do other service, and they refer to it as a service outage. The canal will be drained this year by 7 a.m. on Monday, October 7th, and it will remain so through Saturday, October 12th. So they'll be just doing routine inspection and maintenance work along the canal at a number of locations. And so I've already shared this with DPW, Public Safety, Planning. If there are other particular needs or projects that we have expectations that the canal will be full or that it won't be full, this is when we collaborate with them and communicate with them. I'll also be sending this notice to the immediate abutting businesses. It shouldn't disrupt their business, with the exception of Eagle Creek Hydro, which has water rights, but they're already informed.
Okay,
And posted online.
good. That's an interesting time, and hopefully this year I'll be able to make, usually last year, the Discovery Center had a little walking tour along the canal, and it was rained, I wasn't able to make it, but hoping to have it again this year. Good. Okay, next item, school regionalization.
Yes, so, as the board will recall, last April on the 22nd, the Select Board voted to establish a regional school district planning committee in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 14, and the intent really was to study the potential benefits, be they educational, financial, or otherwise, as well as any drawbacks that might be associated with, I'll refer to it as extra regionalization. Presently, we're members of the Gil Montague School District, and our neighbors to the north in the Pioneer Valley Regional School District. Each district has been dealing with declining overall enrollment that has impact not only on finances but on the ability to sustain programs or to have sufficient number of students interested to sustain specific class sections. And so after some ongoing discussion at what's referred to as the Gil Montague Civic Leaders Group and some engagement with the HEART Committee up at Pioneer Valley, it was decided that we would see whether all of the select boards of these member communities might want to get together and enter into what I would really describe as a pre-planning exploration process. I don't think that there's at this point any indication that there's a further regionalization or bust mentality behind this, but it's just making sure that we're all doing our due diligence to ensure that we have sustainable, high-quality educational opportunities for K-12 students in both of our districts. So what we're now doing is looking to kind of activate that by seeking 3 members who would represent the town of Montague on a study committee in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 14. There will be 3 members, including 1 from each town, who is a member of the existing GMRSD school committee, and these members would be appointed by the town moderator. I've let the moderator know that this is upcoming. I've coordinated with the district superintendent's office, and they will be addressing the question of a school committee representative to Montague's subcommittee at a meeting in early September. And so we are inviting candidates to apply, submitting a letter of interest stating the candidate's motivation for participating, any specific areas of interest relative to the study of regionalization, be it governance, finance, curriculum and educational programs, student services, extracurriculars, whatever it might be, and a statement of their qualifications, preferably to include an attached resume or other summary of relevant experience. The application deadline is 5 p.m. Thursday, September 19th, and I would like applications to be addressed to the moderator, but submitted to my office. You can do it, either by coming into the Select Board office or submitting it via email to townadmin@montague-ma.gov. We posted this earlier today on the board outside. We'll make certain that a news announcement is also published on our Facebook site and our website. This is a committee that could have years of work ahead of it. This is an important committee. People may meet and over the course of a few months determine that this is a non-starter for some reason and have it not move forward, or it could be, a long and engaged process. I think it's very exciting to think about the options we have available to our students, and I'm excited to see the process beginning.
Okay. I guess in the one question I think it's great, and I fully endorse moving forward as we did during our previous vote in April. Do you know if the town of Gill is moving forward with their planning?
Yes, it's,
announcements?
yes, there's been, I haven't, you know, kept a manicured list of all the different communities, but I know that, most of our communities are in a similar spot. We got through the budget process, in particular up at Pioneer, where their budget process took a little longer than it ordinarily does, and are now at that point where we're saying, okay, so now let's start having this conversation.
I know that, or from my understanding is that, of course, we know Gill Select Board and the Gill Montague School Committee and the Montague Select Board all voted to plan this. The other option was to go to town meeting. My understanding was that the Pioneer District School Committee did not move forward, but that some of the towns chose the option through their town meetings within that district. So I'm not sure if those towns and.
The expectation is that we'll have engagement from, I believe, all those communities.
Great, good.
I've been waiting for a confirmation on that specifically, because right now there is no larger committee that's organizing that information, but I believe that's the case.
Good, good. It's important that we start some discussions. I think the first year that I think anybody can remember, for instance, that we've not been able to field a football team, and there's many reasons for that. Enrollment is certainly one of them, and just change in the whole design, the whole kind of thought process around some of the organized sports has changed a little bit in the communities. But it's too bad that we don't have enough students, and more importantly, that it occurs to me as we have fewer students in the district, you know, that they continue to make incrementally small, hopefully changes, but changes nonetheless that have negative impacts on the kids eventually. And so it would be great to see if we could get a district that becomes a bit larger, that could afford, you know, more advanced placement type programs, or additional language options, or larger class sizes, which get more student engagement and help in learning. So I think something needs to happen. I don't know the answer, but this certainly is a step toward trying to help solve what's becoming a larger problem throughout the county and the region. Good. Okay. Anything else, Steve?
Boy, it sure felt like there was something that wasn't anticipated in the 48-hour posting period, but I can't recall what it was, if there was something.
You'll remember as soon as we adjourn the meeting, probably.
Yeah, more than likely, more than likely. Our next meeting is September 9th?
Next meeting is September 9th at 7 p.m. And I guess everybody's fully aware of the bridge. I know there were, the General Pierce Bridge I'm speaking
Yes.
of, there were a few challenges, and I heard a few complaints about it, but I think we tried to get the word out best we could. But had a few people ask me why we allowed that to be closed, and to explain to them it had nothing to do with it.
You're talking about the
with us
Mountain
in
Road
particular.
left-hand turn, yeah.
I'll tell you what I've seen over there after.
So,
I'm gonna be honest and say that I have had to wait 3 minutes on either side of that bridge, but really not worse than that personally yet, so, you know, it's, no one likes sitting in any kind of traffic, especially in western Massachusetts, but as a longtime Boston commuter,
It's not as bad out here. I can
we
tell
are
you that.
blessed. We are blessed oftentimes by the general lack of traffic that we deal with.
Well, I have been avoiding that bridge, as I said during our last meeting, but this weekend, through my choice of route, I ended up like, I'm either gonna drive all the way through Greenfield or I'm gonna go across the bridge. I'll heck with it, you know, across the bridge. And it really wasn't too bad. I did wait a couple of minutes. I got there just as the light shifted, so I had to wait, like you said, I didn't time it, but I'd say 3 or 4 minutes, but it was fine. It's the condition of the bridge moreover than the lights that bothered me. Okay, anything else?
Well,
Want to take a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that the select board adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:35. Thank you.